When you're smiling.
Hey, you. Bubbly sparkling water is crisp, refreshing, and perfect for any occasion. Kind of like my voice, but in a can. No calories, no sweeteners, all smiles. Bubbly. Crack a smile.
Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That is CORRYJOEL. And also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agent's Take, on NFL salary cap and contract matters. Well, we now know Aaron Donald is not going to retire because yesterday he got a new contract for $95 million over the 3 existing years. So I guess when Sean McVay said things are trending in the right direction last week, he was underselling how close things were. Now, what happened with Aaron Donald is unprecedented because typically if you have multiple years left on your contract and you're unhappy, you have new years added to your contract if the team is willing to do an extension when you have multiple years left, which is a rarity in and of itself. Sometimes what you'll see happen is the team will take a Band-Aid approach in a situation where a guy has multiple years left on his contract. And there are 2 approaches that a team would normally take. One would be adding incentives to a contract, and that's something that the Patriots did with Rob Gronkowski when he was during his perpetual unhappiness with the 6-year, $54 million extension he signed in 2012 to become the league's highest paid tight end. In 2017, they added $5.5 million of incentives to try to placate him, which he did earn. He earned all of them. The next year, they added another $3.3 million in 2018 instead of giving him a new deal. And he didn't earn any of the incentives that year. Patriots did that with Brady one year. They added $5 million of incentives where he had to be in the top 5 in some statistical categories, and he didn't earn any of his. Now, the other approach you take is what's been done with Antonio Brown when he was with the Steelers, or Stephon Diggs after he got traded from the Vikings to the Bills in 2020. You take money out of future years and put it in the current year. The Bills took $3.3 million out of future years and adjusted his 2020 compensation upwards from $11.4 to $14.7 million, and then added salary guarantees in the process. Now, what Pittsburgh did with Antonio Brown was in 2015. He wanted a new deal. They don't do deals, so there's a year left on a contract. So they gave him a $2 million raise by taking money out of the future years. And then in 2016, they gave him a $4 million. I think they gave him a $4 million raise. And then in 2017, which was his contract year, they did the big deal, averaging $17 million per year. That's typically how things are handled. So this is unprecedented for Aaron Donald to give up no new years and get $40 million in new money over the 3 years left on that he had on his contract. And this is, I'm going to say contract, it's the 6-year, $135 million extension he signed in 2018, which made him the league's highest paid non-quarterback and the first $20 million per year non-quarterback. The ink was barely dry on this deal when Khalil Mack surpassed him by signing for 6 years, $141 million, which was $23.5 million per year. About a week later, when he got traded from the Raiders to the Bears. Now, Donald's contract was extremely front-loaded. There was $80 million in the first 3 new years, $80 million in new money, so it was averaging $26.67 million per year over those first 3 years. Those are 3 years he's played. He has 3 years. He had 3 years left on his deal for $55 million. Problem was, he wasn't even among one of the 10 highest paid non-quarterbacks at $22.5 million per year. I think he was 11th or 12th before this new deal. But you don't see this happen. that where you have no new years added, and the guy gets $40 million in additional money. He was supposed to make $14.25 million this year. That's now up to $31.5. And how the deal breaks down: $25 million signing bonus, $1.5 million base salary is fully guaranteed. I'm assuming the $5 million roster bonus that's being talked about is the $5 million roster bonus from the second day of the league year. Now, I haven't seen the contract. I'm just going off of reports, primarily a report from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, and then some supplemental reports. 2023, there's a $15 million roster bonus second day of the league year. It's being reported as fully guaranteed. It's probably just skill and injury guarantees at signing, and the cap guarantee kicks in a couple of days later. And there's a big distinction for this. Why? If you have all three of the guarantees, skill, injury, and salary cap at signing, you get prorated. That $15 million will be prorated. If you have none of the three, one of the three, or two of the three, and then if two of the three and the third one kicks in like I think it does, there's no proration, and that roster bonus counts all in the year that it is due, which is 2023. There's a $13.5 million base salary in 2023, guaranteed for injury at signing, fully guaranteed on the third day of the 2023 league year. 2024 roster bonus, the date's not specified. I'm assuming second day of the league year, for $5 million, guaranteed for injury at signing, fully guaranteed third day of the 2023 league year. 2024 base salary, which will initially be $30 million, which is fully guaranteed on the fifth day of the league year. I don't know if it's injury guaranteed now or not. That's not put there. But there are two voiding dummy years in the contract, 2025 and 2026, which void on the last day of the 2024 league year. There's an option bonus where you'll pick up the option for the 2026 league year, most likely. Might be both years, but probably just a 2026 dummy voiding year. And in doing so, the $30 million base salary will reduce to 10, and there's a $20 million option bonus that gets prorated. Now, the guarantees from this report have no offset. That's not... the Rams are comfortable with no offsets. They're one of the two teams, Jaguars and Rams, which don't do offsets for rookie contracts. But in terms of veteran contracts, the Rams, for their bigger deals, will typically have no offsets in the early years. That's how Matthew Stafford's deal is working, with the salary guarantees or any roster bonuses. That's how Jared Goff's contract worked. Cooper Kupp has some guarantees with no offsets. Todd Gurley had some guarantees with no offsets. Then in the later years, roster bonuses in later years will have the offset. So the no offset thing for any other team would be huge. For the Rams, not that big of a deal. And also, Donald's last contract, some of the guarantees had no offsets as well. So he wasn't going to go backwards in terms of how the guarantees looked in a contract. Now, one of the things which caught my eye in the report was there's no forfeiture language with the 2024 roster bonus. Donald was contemplating retirement, and from day one I always thought that the retirement talk was just a negotiation ploy. And that's only going to work if you're a great player, because if you're the average run-of-the-mill player, let's say Andrew Whitworth, who has retired, was using retirement as a ploy, they go, you know what? We enjoyed your time here. Hope you enjoy the second phase for the rest of your life. So this retirement ploy is only going to work for someone who is as great as Aaron Donald. I don't necessarily think you have to be in the discussion for greatest defensive player of all time or greatest player of all time, but you better be pretty damn good to threaten retirement to try to get a new contract, particularly with multiple years left on the deal. Now, getting back to that roster bonus, which has no forfeiture language, supposedly, I wonder if the roster bonus is structured like the ones in his current contract, because it wouldn't necessarily be his if he retired. The way the roster bonuses are in his current contract, because there is an additional condition, as I explained in the last podcast, that you have to be a member of the the team on on a certain day of the league year. Doesn't specify what day. On the third day. It says fully guaranteed third day 2023, but I'm assuming it's second day roster bonus, because in this last contract they were second day, and in this contract they're second day. But must fulfill every material obligation under contract, report, play, and practice with club throughout the league year, unless such failure to practice or play is a result or risk of injury, or as a result of injury or death resulting from performing services pursuant to this contract, or contract is terminated by the waiver system. And with the roster bonus in the 2018 contract, which is being replaced by this one, the roster bonuses are paid over the course of the regular season. So you could afford to not have the forfeiture language if it is like this. Now, there's supposedly also a no-trade clause in this contract as well, at least according to an ESPN report. Now, there may not be the forfeiture language, but if it's like this, Donald couldn't retire, unretire, and then have the roster bonus in 2024 free and clear because he wouldn't satisfy all the conditions. I don't know if this is the case because I haven't read the contract, but I'm making a presumption. Now, I doubt that since he was saying he was going to retire and said he really wanted to play 8 years when he started his career, that the signing bonus doesn't have forfeiture language. I've never seen a signing bonus which doesn't have forfeiture language, and it usually has some language which says that players shall be subject to forfeiture salary to the maximum extent permitted under Article 4, Section 9 of the Governing Collective Bargaining Agreement. I'm assuming that language is in the signing bonus. That he didn't get that out. If he got that out, that would be a first. I've never seen a contract when it's being signed which doesn't have that language in there, or some sort of forfeiture provision. Now, the guarantees can void, so that 2024 roster bonus also could be a problem, or the base salary, or if he retires before that, the 2023 guarantees could void if there's a typical language for voiding for defaults, because usually the word retirement is in there for any type of default language for guarantees. So usually the player default language will say, and the Rams will say, fails to honor material provision of the contract, including leaving the club without players' consent, refusing to report practice or play, or perform services, including but not limited to retirement or holding out. So if I ever see the contract, I'll be curious to see if he got that language out. Nonetheless, this is unprecedented. There's $95 million over 3 years, which works out to an average of $31.67 million per year over the 3 years. Over the 6 years, because he made $80 over the first 3 new years, plus the $95, that's $175 million over the 6 years from when he signed, of new money from when he signed in 2018. There's $46.5 million fully guaranteed at signing. There'll be $65 fully guaranteed by next March, third day of the league year. I'm assuming the same calendar as this year, so that'll be marked by third day of the league year. Would be March 17th most likely. So he's up $17.25 million this year. Through next year, I'm assuming he plays out all 3 years. He's going to make $60 over 2 years, as opposed to $33.25. That's $26.75 ahead. And $95 over the 3 as opposed to $55.40. Now, from a cap standpoint, just based on the reports, the way I look at it is Aaron Donald's cap number this year was $26.75 million. It should be $24 million because the signing bonus is getting prorated $5 million 2022 through 2026 because you prorate through the dummy voting years. The roster bonus won't get prorated if my interpretation is correct. So his cap number is going to be 24. So the Rams are going to gain 2.75 million cap room if how I'm calculating this is correct. Now, also I'm calculating it is the cap number for 2023 was going to be 23.5, but now will be 38 million. So that's adding 14.5 million to the 2023 cap. And for 2024, the cap number was going to be 26.25 million. I now have it at $31,666,666. And that's because the roster bonus, not the roster bonus, the option bonus of 20 million is going to get prorated. 2024 through 2026 at $6,666,666 in 2024 and 2025, and then $6,666,668 in 2026. So compared to where the cap number was going to be, had they done nothing, that's a $5,416,666 cap increase for 2024. Because of the years voting on the last day, 2025 and 2026 voting on the last day of the 2024 league year, there's going to be a 2025 cap charge if Donald is done of $23,333,334 in 2025 once these 3 years are up. Now, one thing I think that's going to happen is you're no longer going to have a ceiling or barrier of 22.25 for interior defensive linemen because nobody passed Aaron Donald from when he signed in 2018. So that's good news for a couple of guys in the 2019 draft class who were eligible, mainly Jeffrey Simmons and potentially Quinnen Williams. That no other interior defensive lineman is above 21. DeForest Buckner and Leonard Williams. So those two guys should reap the benefit. If I'm Jeffrey Simmons, who looked phenomenal in the playoff game against the Bengals that the Titans lost, I want $25 million per year now. That Donald's at over 31. Two vets who could benefit quicker than others if they continue to play. Leonard Williams was smart last year to do a 3-year deal. If he plays at a high level, he could get a new contract in 2023 because he signed a 3-year deal last year in 2021. And also Chris Jones, who in 2020 did a 4-year deal as a franchise player. So 2023 is his contract year as well. So he could be someone from the veterans who reap the benefit. And in 2023, Chris Jones will be 29 years old. Same with Leonard Williams. So those two guys as well. Now, of more immediate concern, I've always thought Nick Bosa was potentially going to hit $30 million per year. His brother Joey became the highest paid non-quarterback at $27 million per year a couple years ago when he signed. T.J. Watt had been the highest paid non-quarterback at shade over $28 million with the deal he signed last year. I know Tyreek Hill is at $30 million cosmetically, but realistically it's $75 million over 3 years on the extension with the Dolphins because $45 million in the last year. So it's going to be, this deal with Aaron Donald makes it easier for Nick Bosa to hit the $30 million per year mark. And the reason I say that is sometimes teams don't want to reset a market, and by the market I mean highest paid non-quarterback. But they're more willing to fit into an existing salary landscape or structure. And with Donald at 31.67, you could have Bosa draft in behind that at 30.5, and that's more palatable than resetting the landscape. Now, the report said that this deal was done by Todd France. Now, I'm a little curious of who the actual agent who negotiated the contract is. The reason I say that is under the NFLPA's records, the lead agent, Brian Ayrock, on the rookie contract, Todd France was listed as the second agent. On the extension, the lead agent, Brian Irault, second agent, Rich Hurtado, who now is an executive for the Broncos, negotiates their contract. The restructure last year for cap purposes, lead agent, Brian Irault, second agent, Todd France. Now, reason why I'm bringing this up is Nick Bosa's agent is Brian Irault. So if he is, I don't know who the lead agent was on this. Maybe it was France as reported. I suspect it's really Irault based on the history. But for Nick Bosa, rookie deal, lead agent Brian Irault, second agent Todd France. So since there's the connection there, that deal is definitely going to come up with the Niners. Now, Cooper Kupp is the next guy that the only other guy left that the Rams have to take care of. And if he said he just wants to be treated fairly, and if I'm the Rams, I hope him being treated fairly isn't, how about just adding a bunch of money to my contract with no New Year's, like with Aaron Donald? Maybe you get him to $50 million over two, and he's still under contract through 2023. If that's what he's now looking at after you've done Donald, because you set a precedent for a great player, and teams usually hate setting some sort of contractual precedent, avoid it at all costs. I still suspect it's going to be an extension as opposed to just adding new money with no New Year's, and more along the lines of what Stephon Diggs did, where it's $96 million over 4 New Years. But we'll see.
This episode is brought to you by Cheetos Deja Tu Huella. Deja Tu Huella means leave your mark, and that's exactly what Latinos are doing all across the country. They're rewriting the rules and pushing the boundaries in their communities to leave their own unique mark. They use their gift, their superpoder, to make an impact, whether it's through art, music, fashion, food, or something else. And Cheetos will celebrate what they're doing by shining a light on their transformative power. The Deja Tu Huella program celebrates those leaving their mark in Latino communities. You can also celebrate by checking out the new podcast, Batman Unburied, on Spotify. Batman Unburied is presented by Cheetos Deja Tu Huella. Visit Batman Unburied on Spotify to learn more.
That's all I have on Aaron Donald's new contract. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel, that's CORRYJOEL, and read my work at CBSSports.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.